Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Sean Stevenson, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in with me today. I was just hanging out talking with my team here about this new app for me, because, coming from St. Louis to Los Angeles, a DoorDash, Postmates, we didn't really have that. People weren't delivering out into the wilderness where my house was at. So it's like a whole new reality. And it's so interesting to see like the access and the deliverability of various foods and, items from the store and this kind of thing. It's really interesting to see for me being new to this. And I just really felt compelled to share this because this is such a great opportunity, because at no other time in human history could you just use this phone, this device in your hand, and be able to create an income for yourself and to take care of your livelihood and the livelihood of your family, whether it's through Uber, whether it's through social media, influencer status, or it's through delivery with, Postmates and things like that. It's really, really powerful. And for all of us, like, there is no excuse. There is no reason that we can't take action to better our circumstances, and it's just for all of us. It might not be your goal or your mission. You might not have been in elementary school, like writing down your goals when you grow up. Like, I want to do the DoorDash when I grow up. And your teacher's like, what is DoorDash? It's like, it's not invented yet. Okay. I just, I have psychic power. And anyways, it might not have been a thing yet, but it's a thing today. And as you'll learn today on this episode, all the things that we're doing, it might not be exactly the thing that you were intending on your path, but whatever your path is, whatever your ultimate goal is, you can absolutely get there. The road is not going to be a straight road. And a lot of us, that's one of the things that we say. It's one of the reasons that we don't take action is because of money. We say, I want to go to that event, or I want to be able to take this trip, but there is a way today more than ever. And this is why I've been doing shows recently on financial wellness and really working on our financial fitness, because we have to get past those stories that we tell ourselves. And I'll put the masterclass episode that I did personally in the show notes for you guys just a few weeks back, and also just some of the guests that I've had on recently as well, including Pat Flynn, and just changing our mindset, because it's a really important muscle for us to work today. And we've got so much opportunity and access. Now, on the other side of the coin, I was just in a conversation with today's guest and talking about some of the businesses that are taking a hit because of apps and services like DoorDash and like Uber, for example, and the cab industry just taking such a huge hit. And the truth is, we have to adapt. We cannot put all of our, quote, eggs in one basket today. We need to be able to pivot and to diversify. And the thing that rings true through no matter what it is that we're doing is the person that we are, right? It's the quality of our character. It's our experience. It's the quality of the things that we do and the way that we live our lives that translates. And when we had Michael Beckwith on recently, and he shared, and he said to me, he was just giving an example that no matter where I am it. It can't be taken from me. It can't be separate from me. And so even if all the things that I've been a part of right now, if I'm just taken and implanted in another place on the planet where nobody knows me, I will find my way back to where I am today. And it just really resonated with me, because it just speaks to the fact of like, you become it. We're trying to chase after and find and accumulate things, but it's not about attracting something. It's about becoming it. It's about putting yourself in position, growing yourself as a person, so that no matter what you pivot to, whether it's pivoting it from a corporate job into entrepreneurship, or pivoting from entrepreneurship to creating a charity or not-for-profit, and you bring yourself to it. So the success you've accumulated, a great example is Scott Harrison, who we had on a while back, who is the creator and CEO of Charity Water, right? He was an epic, legendary nightclub promoter in like New York City. And he took that, the esteem and the experience that he accumulated, and he put this into this non-for-profit, for him, something a lot more meaningful and impactful. And so it's growing ourselves no matter where we are. We might be in some sketchy situations. All right, we're going to talk about that today. But it's giving us opportunities, growing different skills, different muscles. And so there are it might be a mom and pop type restaurant where people aren't coming in as much. So they're hitting that Door Dasher and they're laying back watching Netflix and getting that, that comfort food delivered right to them. So I do want to shout out just for us to still get out and go experience and engage in the world outside, of course. But at the same time, for those companies like Blockbuster, for example, what? Do you even remember Blockbuster? Right? We used to go to Family Video was another one too. I had Star Video. When I was a little kid, I would actually get on my bike and pedal to Star Video, and I would rent video games, and I rent like Nightmare on Elm Street 17 or Friday the 13th 27. There's so many of them. And I go back to the house and watch them. And why would we want to scare ourselves? I shared on the show my experience when I was very little of my mom taking me to a drive-in so inappropriately when I was like 5 and seeing Nightmare on Elm Street with my stepfather, which was just like traumatizing for me. Like, there's no reason I should have saw that. And I had nightmares for like until I was like a teenager because of that experience. And I never told anybody, but I shared it here on the show. And it wasn't until I was like 16 years old, maybe 15, 14, somewhere in there. But, Freddie was chasing me in my dream and I was running. And then I just stopped. I was like, listen, man, we're not getting anywhere with this. Like, you're chasing me, I'm running. Like, we're not really, we're not going anywhere. This is getting old. And he kind of agreed. And we just shook hands or whatever. Like, he had it was like his good hand. And then that was it, But, having that experience of going to the video stores and, the hunt, the hunt of getting out there, like standing by the return box, like, you got the movie in yet? Is Lethal Weapon 3 in yet? But you have to adapt. Netflix came along. First, they were sending stuff in the mail. Wow, interesting. And then they got it where it's just coming directly through your television and game over, But Blockbuster had the opportunity first. They had the funds. They had the ability to create the infrastructure. It was like, nobody's going to do that. People are always going to want to come into our store. We have to grow and adapt. It's not going to be a straight line to our success. We're going to get off sometimes, but every challenge that we're presented with is giving us opportunity for growth, right? So really pumped about this episode today. We're going to be talking about this and a lot more, and how fear is a really big contributing factor to our ability to adapt and to make it to our ultimate goals. So super excited about that. When my guest got here, I like to give my guests gifts. I gave her some Organifi Gold. And the hallmark ingredient that it's centered around in the gold formula is turmeric. And turmeric is one of the most potent in this category of these, quote, superfoods, but it has a lot of clinical evidence as to its efficacy. One of the things that it's noted to do clinically is it has anti-angiogenesis properties. So this means that this substance is able to basically cut off the blood supply to cancer cells. And here's one of the most remarkable things I saw recently. So turmeric, and as you know, the flagship kind of active ingredient is curcumin. And this study was published in the European Journal of Nutrition and covered that in addition to being able to downregulate inflammatory cytokines, so that's what it's really noted for. The biggest claim to fame that turmeric has is it's anti-inflammatory. Turmeric actually was found to upregulate the activity of one of our major satiety hormones called adiponectin. All right, adiponectin. So you might know about leptin as being a satiety hormone. Adiponectin so first of all, it is has a satiating capacity, but it helps to actually assist the body in burning fat, but without increasing hunger. And that is what makes it so remarkable. One of the other things that adiponectin has been found to do is it helps your body to mobilize fat from your viscera. So like the visceral belly fat region, it has this ability to turn on lipolysis where that fat is getting mobilized and released from the viscera, and it moves it to the safer, in many ways, easier to burn area in the subcutaneous fat. All right, so it takes it from the dangerous fat and puts it in more of a safer place. Really, really crazy stuff, interesting stuff found in turmeric, and this is the basis of the Organifi Gold product. So it's the turmeric plus some other amazing things that makes it taste great. Medicinal mushrooms are in there as well. So a lot of people use it for bedtime, to help them to sleep because reishi's in there. Definitely check it out. It's so tasty. Folks like it. You can have it hot with hot water or with some almond milk. Have it cold. I like to throw it in smoothies myself. Organifi Gold. Pop over there, check them out. It's Organifi.com/model. That's ORGANIFI.com/model. You get 20% off everything they carry. All right, that's Organifi.com/model. Now let's get to the Apple Podcast review of the week.
Another a 5-star review titled The Model of Health All Over the World by Cassie C. Gittinger. Shout out from the Lou. I first read Sleep Smarter a few years ago. Learned you were from St. Louis and started following everything you do. I've passed along the book and Model Health Show to many friends, family, and clients. My husband and I recently moved to Germany, and with the mix of traveling and time zone changes, I just reread your book, and it did the trick again. I'm a personal trainer in St. Louis and listen to the podcast between clients and now on road trips here in Europe. I always learn something, become extra motivated, and have so many tips and resources to share with clients. From your expertise and that of your guests, I can't get enough. Keep it coming, Sean.
Oh, I definitely will. Thank you so much for leaving me that review over on Apple Podcasts. And everybody, please, if you've yet to leave a review, pop over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for the show. I appreciate it so very much. And on that note, let's get to our special guest and topic of the day. Our guest today is Koya Webb, and she's well noted to be a transformation specialist. She's a highly regarded expert who's contributed to many platforms, including NBC, CBS, and Steve Harvey. And she operates from a place of intentionality and is noted to be a thought leader in yoga and is an internationally renowned yoga teacher. And that's how I first found out about her. And she's got a new podcast called Get Loved Up. And she also has a new book called Let Your Fears Make You Fierce. And this is an awesome, awesome conversation with Koya Webb. Check it out. How long is your podcast? You've been doing that?
Oh, goodness. I should know this question.
Just
maybe
a ballpark.
4 months.
Okay, so it's pretty new.
I'm new.
Yeah.
But I record in like chunks at a time. So.
As you should.
Yeah, it might be longer than that, like maybe 5 months.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember.
Was it one of those things where you thinking about for a long time of doing, or are you just like, I should do this?
It was like, definitely I should do this. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long I was thinking about it. Yeah, it was definitely, I should do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was just like, it just came up and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That's how my life has been. Things come up and I'm either like yes or no. Mm. And if it's great, I don't move. I don't do anything.
Yeah.
Until it's like a clear yes or a clear no. Mm. So with the podcast, it was just, it came up and it was like a clear yes. I was like, all right, how do we get started?
Yeah. Who's
going to film it? How do we, and I just went. And so it's been amazing.
That's dope. So you're doing video as well?
Yes.
Smart.
So it's
smart.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're not really promoting it or anything. Yeah. I got a chance to look at yours and I love like this style and I've seen different styles and right now we just putting it out there.
Yeah, that's all you
just
should be doing.
Just doing the work, and then I'll have a team, do their thing.
Oh man, like this, my first podcast, not on this show, but it was just me with my computer with a microphone.
Wow.
Like in whatever 2014, whenever that was, 2013.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, that was 2012. So that was a podcast for somebody else's brand, and I did that for about a year and a half. And then, it was thankfully my wife was like, you're building their brand. And so that's when I started the Model Health Show. And that's the thing, just doing the work, creating good content. Literally today, thousands of people every week go back and listen to episode 1. And we're almost at 400.
That's amazing.
Every week, thousands. Maybe
That's amazing.
10, 20,000 people, the first one.
That's really smart because you want to kind of see where someone started.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Like if I'm listening to a podcast and I like it, I'll go back to the beginning and just let it play out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you should.
Right.
You can see that journey.
The evolution.
But the thing is, like you being who you are, you're so established in you. Mm-hmm. Like you can feel good even 5 years from now when people are going to listen to episode 1 because you're you. You know, you're still like figuring stuff out, but it's still like.
I'm not attached to that. I'm not attached to like if I've changed or if something has shifted because that's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
I think before I started and definitely before I wrote the book, I was attached. I was kind of a perfectionist. Like, it has to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And who says this is absolutely true? I'm not sure. So I don't know if I want to write that. I was so caught up on like being perfect. I couldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
And as soon as I was like, you know what? It's okay. Who you are right now is a beautiful person. And who you be in 10 years is going to be a beautiful person. And they're not going to be the same. Just actually understand they're absolutely not going to be the same person. You're going to have the same soul, the spirit, the heart for people, but you're going to evolve. And that's beautiful. So it helped me get things done.
Oh, that's so heartwarming to hear that, just because that idea of perfectionism just keeps so many people imprisoned. And I literally, this, what you just described, I literally did that. My first book, which shall remain nameless, many years ago when I was just,
Where is it?
it's out. What's so funny is like maybe every other week. And this book is at least, this was 10 years ago at least. Somebody will find it at like a random library or like a 5-cent bookstore, and they'll tag me on social media like, this book changed my life. And I'm like, really?
See?
Well, because I was in the process,
Right.
but that's the beautiful thing is it's always like that, and so that's so refreshing to hear that. And you just kind of just getting it done. And and also you finishing, you're going to keep going back and looking at it with updated eyes,
Absolutely.
you know?
Already I'm ready for the
Yeah.
second one.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we got some ideas. Because in writing a book, as you probably know, in writing yours, you change and evolve. The process of writing it, you're going through healing, especially when you include, like I include a lot of personal stories with mine.
Yeah.
So going through those stories again, going through the work again, like I went through a whole evolution, a whole realm of healing, even writing the book. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And I picked that up as I was reading. And the first thing I want to ask you about is well, I know a little bit, but how did you get from like star track athlete to yoga? Like you're a superstar, and I know it's not like you're just in your head, like you got the big, but I mean, you are, just, I remember when I saw you up here at the studio, the first time when we bumped into each other, I was like, we're Facebook friends from like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever it was. And just seeing your growth, because I went back and looked, and it's astronomical. And but I didn't know the pre-story. And the
Right.
pre-story was you were out there in them cleats, right, doing the track thing. So how did you get from there to where you are? What was the catalyst?
The catalyst. I think the catalyst is even today, I'm still that tomboy that lived in the country, that loved to climb trees, and that was ambitious and inquisitive, and that loved to play and loves people. Really, that's how. Because there's so much, as you read in the book, that has happened to me along the way. And I think that, when I was running track and field, it was an outlet for me. It was like, I want to get out of the country. I want to see new things. I was just always into just seeing things and having experiences. I'm very much an adventurous, and I want to see the world. And so track and field gave me that opportunity to like travel, see the world, and do something fun, run around the track in circles and jump things, which being a athletic young girl, it was fun for me. And so really, I think the catalyst, the big shift was when I actually had injury.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when things are going great, you think, okay, this is it. I'm set. This is going to last forever. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do everything. And then when something happens to change that, especially unexpectedly,
Yeah.
it's like devastation. And so for me, everything that I did was surrounded around track and field.
Yeah. And this was in college, right?
This was in college.
So where were you at school?
In
So
what
you grew up,
college?
first of all, you grew up in
I grew up in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Did you go to school in
Tennessee.
Tennessee?
I went to school in Humboldt, Tennessee. I graduated from Humboldt High School. And after Humboldt High School, I went to UT Martin. So I didn't go to Knoxville because I went there for, what do they call it? When you go and you check out the school and everything, you're shadowing like the teachers and the athletes, and you're deciding if you want to go there. And one of my friends, we went out for a party, and one of my friends wound up missing. And so it scared me. And even though my mom and my father, and I don't think I've ever really told this story much, but I remember that I was going to go there because, my dad and my mom went to UTK. And after my friend turned up missing, I was like, I don't want to go there. I need to stay close to home. It's safer. I can be close to my family. I was, middle child. So I was like really taking care of my family a lot. So I decided to go to UT Martin my first year in college. And I gained this freshman 25 pounds. Not the freshman 15.
25, the quarter pounder.
5 quarter pounders. Like
Man.
it was, but I didn't understand. And it wasn't like that I just got unhealthy. Actually, it was the opposite. I was very strong and healthy. I was an athlete. I was on the track, but I had food. because
Yeah.
I ate in moderation and modestly when I was growing up
Right.
because we didn't really have much. So here I am in college and we got a buffet.
You got that meal
Not
ticket.
just one buffet. We had 7 buffets.
Oh,
We had like the pasta buffet, the Thai buffet, the Chinese buffet, and me being an adventure, I wanted to try it all, you know? So each time I sat down, I would get like 5 plates of food. I'd have ice cream. And because I ate anything that I wanted and worked out, I really didn't get the concept that there was anything wrong with it. So I ate all this food. And, you know, in the South, you know, they like them thick. So
yeah.
I was getting
Yeah.
curves. I was like, oh, yeah, this is nice. And I just kept eating. And so, you know, long story short, my performance didn't follow. Like after
Yeah.
I gained 25 pounds, I was a high jumper.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't get my butt over the bar. I was like, there's this extra couple inches on the backside that's really holding me back. So I tried and I really had a tough year. My freshman year was very tough. And I was just like, okay, this has to change. And so my coach was like, why don't you come to Kansas with me? Give you a new start, a fresh. I got bullied a lot. I got jumped once. It was just like, it was horrific. I wasn't supposed to be there. And I do believe that sometimes when you need to make a shift or a change, things happen to kind of push you in that other direction. So I had a really tough freshman year, gained a lot of weight, and my coach just felt so sorry for me. He was like, Koya, come to Wichita State with me. You're just going to start over. I was like, all right. So I went to Wichita. I was like, definitely it's not going good. The guy I was dating, I broke up with him too. So I went to Wichita
Man,
State.
it's
It
all
was
bad. When they
it
say
was
it's all
brutal.
good, it's not all
It was
good.
not all good at all. It was like, what have I done and what am I doing? Maybe I don't even want to go to college. Like I definitely questioned. I was like, is this, I mean, because I looked at a different world and they had a cool college campus. And it
Right,
was fun.
yes.
And that's what I was
Whitley.
looking forward
Where's
to.
Whitley?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dorian and him. So I was like, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be, but I didn't give up. And I think that's so important for people when they do find themselves in places where I'm not fitting in, I'm not doing well, just to not give up, but to find out if not this, then what? If not this, then what? And so I was like, okay, if not this, then what? And my coach was like, maybe this. And I was like, all right, let's try it. So being the open-minded person, adventurous, I was like, all right, here we go to Wichita State. People were like, Wichita State, where is that? Where is that? Kansas. So I went there and I started over. And coach was like, sometimes people can't, and they're timid to tell women, especially things about weight. But he was like, okay, let's talk about gravity. So you gained a little weight, not able to get over the bar. So what are you eating? And I was like, everything. Food is so good. And I went on and on. He's like, okay, so you're going to have to cut it down to 3 meals a day. And you're going to have to cut it down to 1 or 2 plates. He still gave me 1 or 2 plates per. And I just cut back. That's literally all I did. I was more conscious about my eating. And then everything stabilized. Because, of course, I was working hard 4 hours on the track and in the gym. And, again, this was healthy. I went from, we're talking about 115 to like 135. So I was still, and I'm 5'10". So, and now I look slim, but I weigh 160 pounds. So it wasn't that, but weight is weight. It doesn't matter how it looks. It's, when you come to athletics, it's just about science. And even now I tell people, whether you want to be big or small, don't be attached to the weight. Just look good and feel good and be happy with what you see. And so, but anyway, I was feeling good and I was looking good as I wanted to look, but for my athletics, it didn't work. So I started running track. Within a year, I was slated to win the conference meet. Everything was going great. My grades were good. I was headed for a 4.0 that season, and I was walking home from practice, and I got this sharp pain in my back. And I was like, that was weird. It felt like a lightning bolt, like down my back. And I was like, oh, that was weird. And so I kept walking. I was like, ooh, and then I fell to the ground. I was like, this is crazy. I don't know what's happened. I never felt anything like that before. So they took me to the doctor, and coach was like, you have a stress fracture and your 4th lumbar, and it doesn't look good. I was like, what do you mean it doesn't look good? Like, what is it doesn't look good? Me, like, so can we patch it up? I got to take a week off. He was like, you need to really stay off of it. It's a fracture in the bone, so you're going to have to take the season off. I'm like, the season? The season I'm kind of slated to win? The season I'm supposed to help I was team captain. Like, we're trying to go in for this championship, like this season? And he's like, yeah, you know, Koya, like if it doesn't heal, he was like, you could still be a coach or attitude. And I'm like, wait, we went from slated to win the conference to coaching to like, I was devastated. Like, it's like my heart bled. And I was just like, one day, I have chills now just thinking about the moment and how I felt. And it was just like everything that I worked so hard for and all that work it was just like completely, it just like disappeared in one day. I couldn't believe it. So I had a huge depression. I was crying in my classes. The teacher was like, Koya, I think you need to go see the counselor. And I was just like, nothing mattered. I didn't want to live. I was just like, what do I have now? If I don't have track, what do I have? And so I went to the counselor and she was like, I think you should try yoga. They had like a yoga. I'm thinking yoga. I'm thinking Buddha. I'm thinking different religion. Parents not going to feel good about this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking. And she was like, no, it's just stretching. I was like, well, why do you want me to stretch? Like, I'm not going to be running track. I'm not doing it, you know, but I really didn't have a choice, to be honest. And so I went in there. I'm seeing these people looking like it's bliss, and it's painful. I cannot touch my toes. I'm standing on my head. I feel like my brain is going to ooze out. Everything is painful. And they're like, it'll come, it's peaceful. I'm like, you guys are lying. Like, this does not feel good. It's not, and I don't feel good. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be alive. And I just was so frustrated. And the teacher came to me and she's like, just breathe with me. Just breathe with me. And I remember saying, okay. And I remember this chill going through my body. And I was like, oh, that felt really, really good. And I remember before, when I had that feeling, that tingling sensation was when I got baptized when I was a little girl. And I remember my mom and dad saying, you know, I asked them, when am I going to know when to get baptized? Or when am I going to know? They're like, you'll feel it, you'll know. I was like, but how? Like, what sign am I looking for? They're like, you'll know. And I felt that sensation throughout my entire body. And that's when I got baptized. So when I felt this sensation, I knew, I'm like, this is a good thing. This is a really good, so I'm going to stay here. So I stayed in the yoga class. I did the yoga. And then I started swimming. I started biking. And I healed my entire body. But I also healed my mind. Yeah. And I learned to sit in silence. Eventually, some of those painful poses became more comfortable. But it was a lot of pain. It didn't happen overnight. It took an entire year. An entire season. And I did try to go back halfway, and it was like, nope, you're not ready. And after that, I won the conference meet and led Wichita State to its first women's championship. So what I wanted to do the year before, I took a year of humble work and inner reflection to finally get to that place.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, when I read the story and just hearing it kind of fleshed out in more color here, I was just shocked. Like, to go through that situation, and we hear stories similar to this, but there's about to be a change that we're going to talk about next. But you came back and you kind of fulfilled your goal, but then your goals changed.
Right.
You know, and that was really one of the most remarkable things in the book, because I think that the breakdown of your identity really helped to make that even possible, because so many of us really attach ourselves to this idea of who we think we're supposed to be. And if that thing is taken away, then what are we? And we're lost. And there can be a great clearing that takes place. And you get to see, like, wow, I can actually pick and choose and, you know, and dance with this stuff a little bit. And so you decided to get off of this track, literally get off the track of, you know, the Olympics and all the stuff that you thought about doing when you were growing up, and focusing on helping other people.
Right.
And specifically through the medium of yoga. So what was the catalyst for you to have the audacity to do something like that?
Well, I first want to, and thank you for picking that up, because I do believe it was a big revelation to me as well, because what didn't change was my mission. And even the reason that I wanted to run track and get an Olympic gold medal, because I'd see Marianne Jones, I'd see these athletes, and they were making a difference in the world. And so being a young girl, and you know, and you're from a small town, and you're like, well, what is my impact? Like, what can I do to make the world a better place? And I was like, well, I know that if I do this thing, that people, I can help people. And I just wanted to help people. I've always wanted to serve. I always wanted to see people happy. Starting with my family, I'd do it. And I thought I wanted to be a nurse, a doctor, anything that had to do with making people feel good. But I realized I don't like hospitals. I don't like seeing people in pain. I don't like seeing, like, all that stuff is, whoa, like way too much for me. And so I shadowed all of these occupations. And I remember the first person that I met that was actually happy because, some person that was a nurse, they're like, I love helping people, but I don't make that much money. And then I interviewed a physical therapist. And I'm a physical therapist. I make good money, but I don't see my family that much. The first person that I met that was happy with what they were making and what they were doing was a personal trainer. And so that was what I decided to do. I was like, well, they're happy and I just want to be happy. My mom and dad were big influences in my life. My dad was very strict and very stern. You got to do the work, get a good job. He was not okay with, of course, me not knowing what I wanted to do. But my mom was always like, whatever you do, just make sure you're happy. Just make sure you're happy. And so I was like, well, that person is happy. And if this shadowing, that we do in college and high school is about finding, what you want to do, I knew, from coming from humble beginnings that it wasn't going to be money that's going to make me happy. I knew that. I was like, it's going to be the feeling that I have inside, and it's going to be around helping people. My dad said I was going to be a teacher. I was like, nah, Dad, I'm not going to be a teacher. I don't want to sit in the classroom. I think that's very boring. But he saw me and how I love to share knowledge. Once I learned to read, I'd help my brothers. I helped my people in my church. And so he saw that at a young age. But I was like, no way. So what happened was after I won the conference meet, I was like, all right, I'm going to Olympics. I'm training to Olympics. I'm close. I'm ready. I can do this. So I moved to California. And I didn't know a soul. I didn't have a cousin, a relative, no one. I just moved because the Olympic Training Center was in San Diego. Looked in online and I found this coach, Ron Sheffield, and I was like, called him up. I was like, hey, Ron, how you doing? He's like, who is this? I was like, this is Koya. You don't know me. He's like, who is this? This is Koya. You don't know me. But look, I would love for you to be my coach. He's like, who is this? I'm like, look, I know this is super weird, but what I can promise you is if you agree to coach me, I will get better and better every single day. And he was just like, I don't know you, but I like your attitude. So I'll coach you. And I was like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it. Like, I don't know. People like, how did you get the guts? I was like, I don't know. Like, somehow it was in me. It was destiny. And so I moved here. He agreed to coach me. That's all I needed. And so after 6 months, I became a personal trainer. I was training for 24-hour fitness. And I was training from 5 a.m. to 10. Then I practiced from like 11 or 12 until about 4. And then I go and I personal train again from 5 to 10. Because I had an apartment. I was trying to do it on my own, very independent. And what happened? I pulled my hamstring. Because again, even though I learned with yoga the first time, I was like, thanks, yoga. So I still was more mindful, but I wasn't doing yoga on a regular basis. I stopped taking care of myself. I was losing sleep. I remember looking in the mirror at the gym and my eye was jumping from the stress because I had stress from working out. I had stress from like training so many people. I had a waiting list. And I was just like, why? I was so sad again. It wasn't as devastating as the first time, but this time I knew what to do. I was like, going back to yoga. But this time I said, I need to know more about this yoga. Like, this changed my life. And I really just said thank you the first time. Really didn't stick with it. And so I decided to do a yoga teacher training. And that is what changed my life. Really studying the mental, the spiritual, and the physical aspects of breath work and meditation and these different limbs of yoga that teach you to be more mindful and live in a more mindful way and teach you that everything centers around focusing on the breath, focusing on that spiritual connection that you get. That chill that I felt, that was spirit. And we all have it. Everyone has the breath. Everyone has the opportunity to connect with spirit every single day. And once I found that, I said, I want to give this gift to every single person who's open to receiving it. And that's what I'm doing.
Wow. Oh, I love that. This just takes me back to conversation. I actually had her on. She was the most requested person. It was my mother-in-law.
Oh,
You
nice.
know, we've had some incredible, Arianda Huffington, which we talked about earlier, Dr. Oz, all these great people. most requested, because she's had the biggest impact on me. And when we first met, it was maybe like the second or third time that I saw her. She said if I could give everybody one gift, it would be meditation. And she had been teaching meditation for a couple decades, meditating for maybe 40 years at the time. And being from Kenya, like, it was that was not something that was done,
Right.
and she just said she wanted to give everybody this gift. And to be honest, like, I thought she was crazy. Like, I'm like, why would you say that? Can you give everybody a car like Oprah? I don't know. Like, but and it wasn't until I engaged in it, it wasn't until I participated that I realized, like, it is the most invaluable thing. And so you getting that and being so adamant, and the great thing about you is that packaging it up in a way that is an easy on-ramp and attractive for so many people, right? Somebody on my team here in the studio today was like, I did a class with her, it's like, maybe was it a couple years ago, and just like, you have people from all walks of life, men and women, and just everybody who are looking for that opportunity to just get better, and like, you really have that come across in the way that you teach. And so in your book, speaking of teaching and putting this all together, you do share some of your story, but the catalyst is really, and I want to ask you about this specifically, why on earth would you have your first book be based around dealing with fear?
The reason is, when I moved to California and I started doing yoga, and I finally, kept evolving and kept following my dreams as well. I mean, I did the modeling, I got into some TV, did some commercials, all the things, which again led me from San Diego to then LA. And I remember at a point where I just felt a little lost. I felt a loss between like this spiritual depths of my soul and reality or media or working and job. And I was in Hollywood, and I was experiencing all these negative and really hard to deal with things. And then I was also experiencing the depth of my spiritual practice daily. And it was like this huge duality in my life. And I was, going to church regularly, but everything wasn't always making sense. And I was in a very confused period in my life. And I remember walking through the doors of Agape Spiritual Center, which I know you're familiar with, and things started to make sense. And I started to understand how to navigate this world that I love. Like, I love, because we're here to have a human experience. I love being part of the human experience. I didn't want to go like to an island, which is really nice. Like, I think if I really wanted to not be responsible for my mission, then I would go to an island and just live there. And so, not doing that and being in the world, going to Agape, I took a course. I was learning a lot. The music, the minister, Michael Bernard Beckwith, Ricky, they just really fed my soul the way it needed to be fed. And I went to the course called The Course of Miracles, and I read the book, and that really broke down every emotion to love and fear. And it really helped me understand all of these emotions, the fear, the doubt, the worry, the anxiety, all of that is fear. It's some sort of fear. And when you can look at fear, well, this is kind of what I kind of brought to myself. This is how I relate to it. When you break down that fear and realize that fear is just an opportunity to love more, or is placing you that needs love, whether it be a relationship or business or whatever, I realized that I can move to a place of love, and I can be fierce in love. And that's why I chose Let Your Fears Make You Fierce, because fear can be our friend. Fear is not against us. It's just there to show us where we need to love more. Fear that my injury is going to make me not able to live my dream. That was a fear. But what was love? Love was, look, if you start this practice, it's actually going to be your occupation, which I didn't know at the time. But loving myself at that time was just going to that yoga class. Loving myself at the time was getting help. Loving myself at the time was just taking one day at a time to do something for myself. And eventually everything worked out.
Yes, it did. So that's the name of the book, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce. And one of the things that you talk about that really jumped out at me, fear as physical pain, specifically, this is an outpicturing of fear in of itself, but and I love that you put this in here because we look past this so often, but physical pain being an indication that something needs attention. But what we tend to do is like when we're in pain, everything is just wrong. It's just wrong. Nothing is right. And it's very, very difficult to see the brighter side, to operate, like we feel like we're not adequate, but fear can be, I'm sorry, pain, which is an outpicturing of fear, can be an indicator that something just needs attention. So changing that, flipping a switch in our mind to see pain differently.
And it's the same thing. You see fear as your friend. You see pain as your power. Because if you think about, you are in the gym, most people watching work out. When you're in pain, when you feel that lactic acid buildup and you're sore, what's happening? You feel it, it's sore, it hurts, but your muscle is over repairing itself so you can be stronger. So the same thing happens when you're in pain. If you allow yourself to heal that pain, or when you're in fear, you allow yourself to address that fear, then you actually become stronger on a spiritual and emotional level. So it's all connected, and it all mirrors each other if you look at it closely.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So, and I just want to get this across for everybody because the human body is so amazing. Like it's not just based on trauma, like something that happens physically, like, we hurt a muscle or bone doing something, but our bodies really display pain from even just our thinking.
Right.
And so just carrying a lot of stress, maybe that's creating a lot of pain in your neck. It's just like paying attention and asking when you're feeling that pain, like, what is my body trying to teach me? Or what is my body trying to say to me right now? Just to slow down and start to re-identify. But I think another part of it is like, it's also when it happens in our body and we know the answer is giving us action steps.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to change.
We have to change. And that's why I wanted this book to be practical application.
Yeah.
Because you hear it all the time. You got to change. You got to do something different. You got to do something for yourself. But what does that look like? And for me, the breath work, connecting with spirit is number one. And anyone, even if you can't move a limb, even if you're in your hospital bed listening to this right now, one thing we all can do is breathe. Once you have the breath of life, that is spirit, and that is the guide. Right? And then you take that breath and you start to meditate. You go into meditation. And that meditation can be, receiving what I call divine downloads, spiritual downloads, or it can be really asking a question from you and really focusing on visualization or what you want to manifest. So there's so many ways that you can use the breathwork and meditation to calm anxiety, to calm stress, to get yourself to oxygenate your cells so that you can get back to a place of peace, a little bit less pain, because I know it doesn't go from pain. I didn't go from my back hurt to running on the track overnight. It took time. And so when we go through this time of not caring for ourselves or not caring for people we love or not caring for the world, it's going to take some time to balance that out. And I think that's something that people don't have enough patience for sometimes. Sometimes I see myself getting impatient. And I just have to remind myself, like, Koya, things take time. You heard that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that thing and I'm going to be all good. But that all good might take 1 or 2 years. And I think we have to enjoy the journey and realize we are spiritual beings having this human experience and realize that part of this experience is growing every single day, not being perfect. I'm still not perfect. I have all the principles in the book. I do the meditation, the yoga, the chakra work, the breath work, the goal setting, the vision, all the things, right? All the time. But at the same time, it's like being in school. You're not graduating until you actually go into the ground. You're going to the next level, and then you'll have a series of tests, and hopefully you pass. You go to the next level. You don't pass, you'll probably stay in that grade. And this is a sermon that I heard, I think, before I moved to LA, and I loved it because it helped me realize, like, it's not about getting to a point where you have no problems or nothing can touch you or nothing can hurt you. Part of life is experiencing transition, experiencing growth, experiencing change. And once you start to accept that, like accept the reality, you can really look at it like, how can I grow from this? Yeah. How can I feel this? How can I share this? How can I mourn with my family when I need to mourn? And how can I heal when I need to heal? So you understand the duality of life. Like in the day, in the course of one day, we have the sun and then we have the darkness. But in the darkness, we're not all sad. We're resting and we're recovering. And so when we have dark times in our life, we have to understand normally that's a time when we need to rest and recover. And if we start not looking at it as positive and negative, but just at an event, a thing, we learn to make peace with it and we learn to move through life and find more happiness.
I love it. Love it. So there's 4 specific categories or types of fear that you address in the book, and these are all very profound. And we're going to talk about those right after this quick break. So sit tight. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. With all of the things that we're exposed to today, the environmental toxicity, the weird stuff showing up in our food supply, we've got to do things to really support our immune system. Our immune system is really running the show on so many different levels to keep us healthy. And one of the most powerful things for supporting a healthy immune system is making sure that we're getting in some immunomodulators. So what does that mean? These are substances that can help to elevate our immune system in response to things that might be trying to creep their way into our body, into our cells, and defend us against those things. But it can also bring the immune system back down, calm it down if things are running too hot, AKA we're dealing with some autoimmunity. We need things that are intelligent. Many drugs out there that are pushed through pharmaceutical companies, though they mean well, they push your immune system in one direction, and that can really mess things up on the back end, leading to AKA side effects. So to avoid that, getting some natural immunoregulators are going to be a powerful thing you add into your life. How I do that, and it's been a consistent basis pretty much every single day for the past 3 months now, I've been using every day, and even had it this morning, the incredible mushroom elixirs from Four Sigmatic. So head over to foursigmatic.com/model. So that's FORSIGMATIC.com/model. And you're going to get 10% off all of these amazing superfood elixirs. My favorite is the chaga. And chaga has been clinically shown to increase your NK cell activity, so your natural killer cells, over 300%. It's also the most powerful antioxidant that we've ever seen in the history of humanity that humans actually consume. Powerful antioxidant, powerful anti-cancer, powerful immune system regulator. So that's what I use in the morning. I'll get some chaga, and sometimes I'll have it straight, or I'll blend it with some hot water, some healthy fat. So this could be some ghee, this could be some grass-fed butter, this could be some coconut oil, some MCT oil, things like that. With a little bit of cinnamon, maybe some other fun medicinal herbs you can throw in there. But this has been the daily thing that I've done for the past few months, and I highly recommend you start doing the same thing. They also have the mushroom coffees, and my wife is a big fan of these. And so the mushroom coffee mix has cordyceps and chaga in there. And today she ran out. She was like, where's my coffee? And she's not even, ever since we've been together, she hasn't been a coffee drinker, but this has been her daily thing. She loves the way it makes her feel, and she doesn't get some weird kind of caffeine spike and crash as well. So head over and check them out. foursigmatic.com/model for 10% off. Now back to the show. All right, we're back, and we're with Koya Webb, the author of this epic new book, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce. And before the break, we were talking about these 4 specific categories that our fears fall into. And I really want to have you on to talk about this because, from us getting from here, wherever we are, to where we want to be in our lives, a lot of that, which is dictating our inhibition, has to do with fear. And because we all have so much potential, there's so much possibility for every single person, but it's always, we hear this thing about fears holding us back. And so you really broke down and dissected these. So the first one is fear of failure. So let's talk about that one a bit.
That is the biggest one. Yeah. I mean, just think about it, whether it's you're going to write a book, you're starting a relationship, you're starting a new job. I don't know anyone who's not experienced fear of failure. Because you wonder, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Can I do this? And that takes you out of that space of love, of knowing like you can do the best you can. You can do a good job based on the tools that you've been given, right? Yeah. But we're always judging ourselves compared to someone else. And that's kind of where, social media and a lot of people are experiencing so much anxiety with social media because now we're in constant state of comparison. When you're in that constant state of comparison, you can't be in love. But if you can meditate and get yourself back to, I am worthy, I'm going to do the best I can, you're good. So when you feel the fear of failure, it usually comes from, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. And a lot of times it can stem from childhood. But once you say, you know what, I'm just going to do the best that I can. I'm going to give this like 100% and let the chips fall where they may. And that attitude can get you through anything. And you might not make it. Like most, The Tipping Point, that was one of my favorite books to read and realize it takes 10,000 hours to be successful at something, and realize that, you know what, it doesn't matter if it doesn't come day 1, day 2, day 3. And the biggest thing that I got with this, the biggest lesson I got when I was trying to play basketball, I always tell my track and field story, but I played basketball in high school and I didn't make the team. I didn't play in junior high. And when I went to high school, I was running track and field. And I told my track coach, like, no one's really looking at the track. Everyone loves basketball. And, my dad loves basketball. And I was a daddy's girl. So I was like, I want to play basketball. So I asked my coach, I was like, can you get me on the team? He's like, I don't know. The team's not really winning. Do you really want to play? I was like, yes, I really want to play basketball. So I was hoping you can get me on. I'll work hard. I'll do whatever it takes. He's like, all right. So he talked to the coach, and I was in earshot, and he was like, look, can you give Koya a chance? Even if she's riding the bench, she's definitely going to run up and down the court. She'll play some good defense. She's a hard worker. She's a good girl. Can you put her on the team? And the coach was like, well, it's not like we have anything to lose. And I was like, yes, I was happy. I didn't care it was losing team. I just wanted to play. And so I went out and I started playing, and I was not good. I mean, I could not dribble. I would lose the ball. I would throw the ball. And I remember the one time when I would practice, I would dribble around my pole in my basement. I was like, I'm going to get this thing down, because I was tall and lanky and just figuring out my body. But I couldn't get it down. And so I'm practicing. And finally I'm like, if I just get one chance, I practiced this specific layup that I was going to do, exactly how I was going to grab the rebound. I visualized it, and I got an opportunity. The person in front of me fouled out. I got into the game. I was like, all right, where's that rebound? I pictured this a million times. I'm going to do it. So I snatched the rebound. I went to the perimeter, bouncing that ball so hard and running down the court with all my might. And I laid it up, and I was like, yes. And no one was yelling. And I was like, and then my coach was just shaking her head, just like, Koya, that's the wrong goal.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like, oh no, get over here. And I was like, oh,
Is there video of this?
I hope not. It was
that's-
the most humiliating. But I looked in the crowd, my dad just laughing and shaking his head. And I was just like, that is the most embarrassing thing. I've done some more embarrassing things since then, but that at that time was the most embarrassing thing. So I sit on the bench and I was like, oh man, it felt so good to do it. But I was like, it was the wrong goal. And so, but believe it or not, I don't know how, but even though I shot at the wrong goal, I was really happy inside because I did exactly what I said I was going to do. And my friends were laughing, and everyone, and I'm kind of a comedian underneath people. Most people don't know this about me, but I was laughing at myself. I was like, oh my God. And I was just like, okay, well, I mean, we weren't winning anyway. So I was just like, so anyway, so that happened. I rode the bench for the rest of the season because the coach, we didn't have a winning streak, and she didn't need anyone shooting at the wrong goal to further the humiliation of the loss, right? So I rode the bench. But then the third year, my junior year, we got a new coach, and the coach didn't know any of us. And so they were just let us play. And the coach was a man, and he said, you're going to play based on how good you are. No one has a position. No one owns a position. I was like, oh, opportunity, because I'm a hard worker. And I was like, oh, I'm going to start. I just said in my mind, I was like, I'm going to start. I knew it. And so I worked hard, and I'm a team player. And the person I was taking their place, and they were probably like, oh, she's talking about me. But I knew that if I did my best, that I would do well, just because I see people, I see everyone. And as I rode the bench, I would see what moves I should make and how it should go. So I paid attention. I worked hard. I played. I played my heart out. I started. And at the end of that year, I got most improved player of the year. And I did the same thing my senior year, and I got MVP, most rebounds, and most points.
Unbelievable.
And so that's how I knew if anything that I wanted bad enough, if I put my heart to it, then it would work out.
Yeah.
I knew after that I wasn't afraid of hard work and that it was going to take hard work to get anything that I wanted, but I saw the results.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow. I'm literally like, I can do anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
I was really excited.
Why
about
was
it.
I just listening to that on
Really?
the way in here today?
Get out.
I swear to
I
God,
must
the
have-
Carters. Like, matter of fact, no.
He's like,
I'm
I
gonna
gotta
pull it
show
up.
you.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Wow, that's so funny.
Nah, man. Come on, right here.
It's right there.
Come
Yep,
on. I mean, that's
he's
a different
telling
track
truth.
on the album, but I listened to that one
That's
first.
so
That's
cool.
nuts. See, we're in the zone right
We're
now.
in the vibration.
Well, listen.
Serendipity. I
Yeah.
believe highly in serendipity as
Yeah,
well.
these moments are always happening. Even then, you were scripting out how things were gonna go,
Mm-hmm.
and even with that fear of failure, like you had already failed before. You
Right.
failed in high school, and now you got a clean slate in a sense
Right.
to in an opportunity, even though you couldn't really even bounce a ball to play with grown people, But and the story, like you did fail, but you just kept showing up.
Yeah.
Most people just don't do that. If you just keep showing up, and it might not have it might not be the exact picture.
Right.
It will be a different flavor of it sometimes, or a different different color of it. But it's so crazy. Like, I've talked to so many people over the years who they saw a certain dream in their mind, and they got right. I mean, so most of the people that, of course, like I've had on the show, they've met that dream.
Right.
It might have a different version again, but so many of us just, when we meet opposition, we stop because
Right.
of that fear of failure, especially once you get in it. And so what I want to encourage people to do, and what you're doing as well, is with the 10,000 hours, you just take the first hour, because it seems so daunting. It seems
Right.
so much, 10,000 hours. You're not going to catch me. I'm like in the 50, 60, 70,000, 80,000. You know what I'm saying? But you have your own track and your own opportunity, and you need to get hour one under your belt. Hour one's, guess what? You got 50, 60, 70,000 hours that are about to pass anyways.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to do?
Right.
And
you're not thinking about the hours as well, because I always tell people, enjoy the journey, because once you get there, you're going to be on to the next thing. You're just going to want something else. And so not even worrying about when is it going to come. And I like to remind people, you don't fail until you stop trying. Because if you listen to anyone on your show, it's like you try and it goes different. You might change paths, but you don't fail until you stop trying. Because even though my path transitioned from track and field to, life coaching, to being a thought leader and teaching love consciousness, I'm still helping people.
Yeah.
And that was my mission at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so, yes, things change, but are you happy? Are you doing what you love? And those are the things you have to ask yourself. And if so, keep going.
Yes.
Keep going
Yes.
and enjoy the journey.
And in the book, you have this specific sentence: "This challenge is not me failing." Speaking of failure, when that failing moment happens, well, from how we label it, but you said, "This challenge is not me failing. This is me getting stronger." Right? That's
Right.
what it is. It's just developing those muscles to be able to pivot, to be able to adapt, to be able to see things differently. That's
Right.
what it is. It's a
Even
gift.
in the mind, like when you start to think like, okay, I'm saying I don't love myself and I don't love myself. I don't feel good about myself. And you say the affirmations, and I share an affirmation in every chapter, and people are like, well, how am I saying these affirmations? These affirmations are not true. But if you think about it, the more you say the affirmation, the stronger you get mentally. So even if you don't believe it yet, your mind is getting stronger to believe it. And then eventually what you believe is going to match what you're saying.
Yeah. So good. So true. I love this so much. So fear of failure. I really hope that it's so important, because I know everybody listening has a talent, a gift, a mission, something of value, and we need it. Like, we really need it right now. And there's that proverb, and I might mess the numbers up, but it's that journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And so I'm just really wanting people to take that first step, whatever that calling is. Maybe, maybe you might be in your 30s and you're like, I've had hoop dreams too, Koya. I've had hoop
Right.
dreams. And just going and joining a league, and just doing something that feels good to you, like you could barely dribble, you know what I'm saying? But they ended up like, what an incredible story. And like, I'm so grateful that you shared that story with me because of the comedy in the beginning. Like you literally score on your own goal. But I saw the beauty in like, she's fulfilling her vision.
Right.
It's just a little backwards.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? But you just kept showing up and the opportunity will present itself.
Absolutely. And sometimes it doesn't look like you think it's supposed to look, but how do you feel? Like we might be in a job like, I would never do that. Or even be in a relationship like, I don't know about that person, but you feel good in it.
Yeah.
You feel good around these people. And so sometimes it doesn't look like how we think it's going to look. And, when I start, eating a certain way, eating plant-based, and I'm from the South and no one in my family is plant-based. And I never thought I would be vegan, and I was like, and my parents asked me, what do you eat? Salads, and they tease me all the time, but I'm like, but it feels good. So even though it's different and even though they don't understand it, I'm like, I share my food with them. They're sad they can't share their food with me anymore, but they also respect it and they also see my happiness and want me to be happy. And so that really does, make me feel good. And again, it's all about what makes you feel good. And I think if people remember that one thing, not looking outside of themselves for happiness, approval, and just really tune in, and you do that with the meditation and breath work. And so when you do that, you're able to actually feel what's actually making you happy.
And that leads us to the next fear, this major fear of these four, which is the fear of judgment, and how that can debilitate us.
Absolutely. The fear of judgment, and number one judgment is us judging ourselves. Judging ourselves as not worthy enough or not good enough. If we don't look like this, if we don't wear this, if we don't say this, if we don't have these accolades, we judge ourselves and say we're not good enough. And then we look at people outside of us and see how they are affirming our own self-judgment. But people like, oh, they're judging me. No, you're actually judging yourself. And now you're looking at people to affirm the judgment that you have on yourself. And I think if people realize that, they'll do the self-work to see like, what do I really feel about myself? And I will say, like, I have so many insecurities. It started with my hair and then, the color of my skin. And then, even being tall as a tall woman, having all these things being different and having these self-judgments. And when you have that, you really have to heal those spaces, else you're always going to find someone that's going to affirm exactly what you're thinking inside. And guess what? That's fear, and that's an opportunity for love. So you have to work with saying the affirmation, I am beautiful, I accept myself, learning how to work with your hair, learning how beautiful your skin is, learning to fall in love with your height, whether you're short or tall or in between, whatever it is you have a challenge with. I know we all have challenges with something that we want to change. But if you can fall in love with the person that you are, it's going to help you pull out of that. But if you kind of look around, it's just going to keep reminding you of like, yeah, I affirm that. Yeah, you are tall. And for a girl, it has this, and hashtag tall girl problems, and sometimes we just kind of affirm hashtag, all these negative things. But I love, like, now we're starting to say, I am different. This is how I'm different. And this is beautiful. Different is beautiful. And the more that we can embrace our uniqueness, we all have unique gifts and talents, like you mentioned earlier. And if we can all realize that, look at all of nature. Nature is our most beautiful example. Everything in nature is different, but it works together to make a beautiful world. And if we can just realize we are all different and beautiful, and it takes our differences to make up this beautiful world, then we would stop trying to be someone else or do something. We would be inspired. Like, I'm sure the sun is inspired by the moon is inspired by the sun, but they shine at different times, and we are just like the sun and the moon. We're meant to shine in the light, in the darkness, just shine and just be ourselves.
I love that, because with you sharing those things about the things you were worried about judgment behind, because when people see you today, they're like, what does she know about judgment? She's beautiful. She's impacting all these lives. She's got it together, right? And you sharing that and opening up, and you did that throughout the book in many different ways, obviously. I think it just gives us more freedom to realize like these are really self-imposed judgments. And you also talk about in the book that you're not a victim, you're a creator. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. And I think it's a good thing that, I shared it because it was really hard to share that chapter of the book because I shared how I've been assaulted. And I feel like when things happen like assault, really traumatic things like world catastrophes, a loss of a child, like things, and you're like, what? Like what can I do to change that? What did I do wrong? Like all these things, you want to have a reason, right? Well, what I realized and what helped me heal through that time is just realizing that things happen in the world and sometimes there is no why. There is no why. But no matter what happens, you have this opportunity to grow from it and not let it take you out. And I believe, we all, no matter what, we all are going to experience someone dying in our lives, right? And I think that's something that since everyone is experiencing it, they can relate to it more. The more that we realize, like, okay, this person died and I'm not happy about it because I love this person, but I'm going to remember the good that they were in this world and I'm going to take that with me. I'm going to live with that. So when something happens and when, for me, when this all happened, I had to remember that I am a good person and I am loved no matter what happens to me. I can't think of why. I can't think of what I could have done. That's just gonna make me like pull my hair out and cry for years upon years, which happened. Which I still think that there's something that affects my relationships today that I have to constantly heal from and work through. But I'm still happy. I'm still healthy. I'm a good person, and I think that's what we have to remember. That no matter what happens to you, remember love, and everything else is illusion. For people where to offend you, let's say if it's a job or another person, they're in a sick state. If you can have compassion, no matter what, that can also help you forgive yourself for being hurt for so many years and also forgive that person. So I had to do some deep forgiveness work and realize that I could say, this happened to me and really be mad at the world for the rest of my life because this happened to me. Or I can say, this happened to me and I'm going to create a space for other women to share, other men to share when they have been assaulted, when they've been taken advantage of. And let's just talk about it. Let's talk about how it makes us feel. Let's talk about how much it sucks. And let's talk about the people that we are regardless of what happens to us. And so I use it as to empower myself and to empower others. So instead of being a victim, I made myself a creator. And that's what I'm doing every single day. And I really, really challenge and also just like, I challenge everyone that if you do feel like you're a victim in life, see how you can become a creator. See how you can make, turn those lemons into lemonade because it's never going to get easy. You're never going to have enough whys. And sometimes it's not going to make sense. But what I do know for sure is that you can get out of it. You can connect back with who you are. And that's a spiritual being, have a loving experience, having a human experience, having a loving human experience, despite when negative things happen, because negative things, they don't last forever. Injury doesn't last forever. And trauma doesn't last forever unless you let it. And every time I see some of that trauma bubbling up around things in the past, I just go to my mirror work, go to my gratitude journal. I just start again telling myself that you're okay. You're loved. Keep reminding myself that.
Thank you for sharing that. Just to go back with this, this fear of judgment, I think, again, today really offers a really powerful opportunity, but also another level of self-imposed limitation because of our access like to social media and things like that. Because I know a lot of people listening have been thinking about, I want to start a podcast or I want to, do something with social media or become a vlogger or a YouTuber or all these different tools that we have access to, or write that book. And we're debilitated because we're worried about what other people are going to think. Now, there is an inherent kind of like human concern of connection, just like it's that amygdala, it's just like a primal. We want to be accepted in the tribe. But this is losing track, and just thank you for sharing that, of your innate value. Like, you're so valuable. And a lot of these things we cook up in ourselves, we look for affirmation of these things. however weird you are, which you probably got your weirdness, however your quirks, the way that you communicate, I promise you there are other people who will resonate with you. There are other people who are feeling the same way. And just like you said, creating the opportunity to have those conversations,
Right.
it's so cathartic and healing because we separate ourselves. Like we're more connected than ever, and we're so much more separate than than ever in some ways. And so I want to just encourage you to look at that fear of judgment and ask yourself, like, is this really debilitating me? Is it really worth it? You know, my fear of judgment versus me giving my gift. Because like I said, we need you right now. And you not sharing your story, your experience, your insight, it's a little bit selfish. It's a little bit
Absolutely.
selfish.
The world needs everything each and every one of us has, else we wouldn't have been created. We are all so necessary, and we're necessary at our highest, the highest version of ourselves. And that is my goal, even with this book, is, and I think when you remember your why, not just, I'm going to do a podcast because Sean is doing a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast. But first of all, is it fun for you? And why are you doing it? I'm doing a podcast because, again, I want to serve people and I want to put a positive. So I think sometimes we look at what other people are doing. We say, I'm going to do that because that's the way to be successful. And it's superficial. And sometimes when it's not a deep-seated why or is a deep-seated reason that you're doing this, you can feel lost and you can feel unfulfilled. Right? And so that's why when I start things, I'm like, how does this make me feel? And if it doesn't make me feel good, I let it go. I mean, there was a point in time, I don't even know why this came up for me to share, but I guess I'm going to share it because sometimes I get downloads. So it's embarrassing. So I'm going to share something embarrassing now. I got this opportunity to play lingerie basketball. And I'm going to regret the fact that everyone's going to Google
This
and look
is
at
so
those
good.
pictures.
This just please continue.
I don't want to. Okay, so I got this opportunity to play lingerie basketball. And so in high school, remember, I ran track and I played basketball, but I chose track and field because I got more offers. And I, had a bad experience, playing basketball. Like, it was a different kind of energy there that I wasn't, comfortable with. And so I got this opportunity, like, yeah, we're looking for girls for this like semi-pro league lingerie basketball. And I was thinking, oh, well, I like lingerie and I like basketball, so let's do this. So, I think I can still play. And like you said, you don't lose it, you can do it at any age. So it's exactly what I was thinking. So I go out, I'm training, I'm having fun. I see the outfit, I'm like, ooh, no, I guess. Okay. And so I wasn't really connected with it. But again, I had this passion in me to like see if I still had it, see if I could still play. And I could. I actually had a shot because I was a little bit more confident. I'd been doing the work. So here I am playing. Totally stage left of my purpose. Like there's nothing that I was going to do with a lingerie basketball to help many people. But I mean, you could.
But go ahead.
But I mean, the point was that, and just in respect to everyone else that played lingerie basketball, for me, it was definitely a detour from what I was doing, which I was life coaching at the time. Yeah. But
this is so good right now. Like the paradox. I love this.
But it was so good because one, I was financially struggling. So that extra cash per month was good. Two, I love basketball. And again, I love lingerie. So I played it. And so what happened was it was really rough. I didn't like what came with it. So at the end of the day, it wasn't because it was lingerie basketball and not that it was just a detour, but I wasn't happy because it was a lot of cattiness. It was a lot of arguing. This one girl just wanted to fight me every single day. I remember asking, why do you want to fight me? She was like, I don't know. She wanted to beat my face in for no reason, just because I was who I was and I was likable and I bring oranges for everyone on the team. I'm just a nice person, but some people don't like nice people. They just want you to be mean and gossip and do everything else. And I refused. So I was not liked. So long story short, I knew that I needed to get out. I was like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Yes, the basketball is fun. The lingerie is cute, but you're not in an environment that's helping you grow. And right now, you're trying to get your life together. You're trying to make a life for yourself. But this is not, you're not happy. And you need to shift. But I couldn't because I signed a contract, right? So I was in there and I remember the game and I was like, man, I don't like this girl. I am going to shove this ball right. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna like annihilate. And then we would, and this is the athlete in me. So we're under the goal. We're like boxing each other out, pushing each other. I mean, we're just fierce. We're going hard. And I'm scoring. She's scoring. And I remember I was all the way in my ego. I was all about just like scoring all over her, like making her look like the worst player on the court. And I remember dribbling down the court, and all of a sudden, pop, dribbling. My knee went out. I flew in the stands. Completely ruptured my ACL. Complete rupture. That game right there. No one touched me. She's just like, and she didn't. It literally just popped. And I don't know how many people believe in energy or metaphysics, but I was 100% competitive, 100% like I want to be her, and I want to show her like I'm the best player on the team and all of this stuff. And then I was out. I was out. And so, doing the work and having done the work and having been injured, this was my third time, I realized that you were not where you wanted to be. You were 100% in your ego, in competition, and this is going to give you an opportunity to breathe and love on yourself and think about your why and think about where you want to be. And let me tell you, I did not want to lose my ACL to get this lesson.
Yeah.
But when I was on crutches and when I was in my bed, when I got an opportunity to breathe and meditate, I realized that was a detour. That was a detour. And I think it's okay. It's okay to have those times in life where you're in a toxic relationship and you know that person isn't good for you, but you stay in it because it's kind of fun. And then you're like, I need to get out. And sometimes different things can push us out. Maybe we realize it and get out on our own, or maybe different things happen. But this was a detour, and my out was an injury, and it hurt, and it took a long time, I think a whole nother year to heal. But at the same time, then I started making food and I started healing myself. Again, I got away from my practice because I started focusing on basketball more. So yeah, I think, when you are committed to the practice, even when you make detours, you'll be guided back. And that's why I want to give everyone this gift of meditation and yoga. And that's why I share these tools in the book, is because it's not about being perfect. And even if I hadn't got an injury and still played, I think eventually I would have had decided, like, you're not healthy. So you need to ask yourself, should you stay or should you go? So that was my story.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got on that tangent or why that downloaded at the time, but I'm like,
it's because, I'm so grateful that you shared this, because so many people, like, they've got that story like this. I don't want people to know this part.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like, you gave that good reference point of like being in a toxic relationship. And so many people have experienced that, or they're experiencing it right now. Right. And just to know that we're still getting this feedback that things do need to change, but everybody has had these situations that they're not necessarily like pumped to share, but you can still change. You can get back on track, and you can have those detours. And wow, because the thing is, life, when we talked about that first step of a journey of 1,000 miles, taking the first step, it's not a straight path.
Right.
That's the thing too. Like, you're going to have these random crazy things come up along the path, but they're all developing something. Right. There's a gift in it somewhere. And so for like that, like, firmly cemented you on where you are supposed to be, So thank you. That's so awesome. And so I didn't even know that was a thing. First of all, I know about the lingerie football, but now I know.
I think very similar, but I think they were trying to start a basketball league, and I think it didn't manifest fully. But is the lingerie football thing still going on?
I have no idea.
Me neither.
I have no idea.
But, like I said, again, everything that other people do is not for you. For someone else, it might be the thing. And that's another thing I think is important to talk about, too. Like, what was not for me could be for someone else. Like, I ended up not running track and field, but someone else maybe kept going, and now they have a gold medal, and so it's not really about comparison or worrying about what it is or what it isn't, or what it should be, or what should you do, what, asking other people. It's really about doing the internal dialogue. What is it for me right now? And I think if we always go within to work things out instead of looking outside of ourselves, we'll be led and guided to our exact path that we need to be doing on this earth. And no one else knows it. So even when I teach, I tell people, I'm sharing my story so that you will be inspired. but I don't expect you to do everything that I'm doing. Like every little thing, it's like you have to find out what works for you. And hopefully I give you enough tools that you can try a couple out and keep the ones that you like and toss the ones that you don't. But realize that this is a personal journey we have. And when we bring people into our lives, they're helping us. They're also challenging us in ways that we need to be challenged to grow and evolve. But it's all a process of us becoming the best version of ourselves. It's all a process of us truly enjoying life as us, not anyone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is a great segue to the third fear. And if we could talk about this quickly, fear of change.
Oh, yeah. Well, the only constant thing in life is change. So I don't understand like why we fear it so much. But the only thing constant in life, everything in life changes. And we get into jobs, we get into relationships, even with ourselves. And you're like, I don't ever want to change. I always want to feel this. Well, the constant thing is you're going to feel sadness. You're going to feel pain in our own selves, and we're also going to feel it in our relationships, in our jobs. You're going to go through this ebb and flow. And the more you resist, what? The more it persists. So the more you're like, I don't want it, the more you're gonna feel it, and you're gonna have to breathe through it because it's just teaching you the lesson for peace. And that's the thing we all want, world peace. How does world peace happen? Well, it starts inside. How can you have peace? Stop resisting change. Because change is inevitable. It's gonna happen. And so when these things happen, just asking the question, what is this trying to show me? What is this trying to tell me? How is this leading me towards love? Because if love is all there is and fear is an illusion, then even the fearful stuff, even the hard stuff, even the seemingly bad thing is still a journey towards love. And that's what I truly believe.
Love it. Love it. And the final one, and again, there's so much more laid out in the book, but just to have this framework of these various fears. And I was actually surprised to see this one because I was kind of scanning before I even got to it. Because, sometimes your consciousness can jump ahead a little bit.
Right.
And so I was like thinking about what would the fourth one be? And then to see this one, I was surprised, but then it was like, yeah, this makes sense. So it's fear of being the first.
Yes. And if you've ever been the first in something, then you can really relate to this. But actually, we all are the first in something because we're the first version of ourselves. Even if you're a twin, you're the first version of yourself. And people are afraid to be first. That's why we're so afraid to be themselves. And that's an uncommon one. But I realized that after a lot of study, it's just like, if you think about it, you're like, if you're the first one to go to college, you're afraid because you don't have anyone to look at. You don't have a template to follow. So what do you have to do? You have to figure yourself out and you have to do the internal work. We are the first people. We are the first, in everything that we do because we are the one. So what does that take? Internal thinking and self-assessment, which is what the book is like. Just what are the top 10 things that you like? What are your goals? All that needs to happen on a weekly basis, even on a daily basis sometime when you're changing a lot. But I think the fear of being first is what holds most people back. They're looking for an example that they can follow, that they can latch on to. They say, okay, if this worked for them, then it can work for me. And that's beautiful. It's very beautiful to be inspired. And it's very beautiful to look on social media and look online and have inspirations. But again, inspirations, not necessarily a template, because unless you realize that, there are going to be some differences. And I think when people are afraid to be the first at something, it holds them back. They're like me, like I'm a perfectionist. So perfectionist breeds procrastination, and you never put it out there because you think, I want it just like this. It has to be, I have to say the perfect thing and I have to look perfect and everything has to be perfect. And until it's perfect, I can't do it. And you're just holding back all that beauty from the world, all the beauty of who you really are, all the beauty of what you can really do because you're trying to be perfect or you're trying to be like someone else. But if you're not trying to be perfect and you're not trying to be like someone else, then you will not have the fear of being first. You will go forth knowing that the world needs exactly what you have, exactly the way you have to share it. Whether it's quirky or funny or weird or loud or soft or whatever, the world needs it just like that because, as you said before, someone can relate to it. Yeah. And then someone will be inspired to be their quirky, unique, amazing self. And I think that's what, the fear of being first is all about. It's just not being afraid to be you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being you and
you.
sharing your story and putting your life and your experience, your insight into your book. And also, you now you have a new podcast as
Yeah.
well. And I'm just really in awe of, you coming from Humboldt,
Humboldt, Tennessee.
because it's very close to humble, because I know some people was like, "Was she say humble?" Yeah, Humboldt, and to where you are today and the millions of lives that you've impacted, through like just, and again, you said it's not perfect, but just working through being more you
Right.
and sharing that with us. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
Yeah.
been an honor to be on your show. And thank you for creating this platform and giving me the opportunity and so many others the opportunity to share who we
Oh,
are.
thank you. I received that. Thank you. So let everybody know, please, where they can pick up your book and also connect with you online.
Thank you. Well, you can pick up my book at koyawebb.com, and you can find me online at Khoya Webb on Instagram. Also, my company Get Loved Up, which is all about self-love, unity, and eco-friendly living. You can find those both on Instagram and all the other social media outlets. So,
Sweet.
Khoya Webb and Get Loved Up.
Awesome. Thank you, Koya.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, thank you for tuning into the show today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. I feel good. All right. I feel like I got a soul hug today. And that last fear really jumped out at me. And, I've shared bits and pieces of my story, of course, here on the podcast over these years. But yeah, that the fear of being first is very difficult if you don't have a model or have an example. But this is why we need that exposure. And that's why this show exists. This is the Model Health Show. But ultimately, you are creating your own template, your own model of success, of happiness, of health. And it's going to be different from every other person, and it's beautiful. And so really operating and working through that fear of being the first, because that's ultimately what you're going to find yourself at is creating your own model of how things are going to be. And so for me, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college, and not having an example, it was hard. All right. School was easy to me, but the process of graduating took a long time because I was the first. And there was so many different things associated with that. And we can always acknowledge these fears, but we can transform them and even transform our language behind them. Looking back, I don't really feel like I was in fear of being the first. I felt like it was my destiny. It was my mission to do it. And I changed the fear around. I changed the words around in my mind to just make it something more empowering. Not to say that the fear wasn't there, because clearly it was there. But that even creating this podcast, there was nobody that talked like me or that looked like I did, doing this. And for many years, just even looking at the top of the charts on this medium, I was the first person, and I had to go through my own mental concerns early, very, very early on, prior to this podcast being started, about how much of myself can I actually be, and thankfully I saw that, the greatest gift that I can give to everybody is to be authentically myself, and to allow all the different quirky, like we just stopped the show to talk about the Carter's album. All right. And if you don't know what that is, it's all good. Beyonce, Jay-Z album. But, like those little things about me, it's okay if everybody doesn't get it, but it's a part of who I am. And some people that do get it connect even deeper, And I just want to encourage you to do that as well. You might be super into like My Little Pony. I don't know. You might be super into Gumby. I don't know. Whatever that is, allow those things that you feel are kind of strange and quirky or funny or fun or real, something that, like Koya shared today, like her going through a traumatic experience, being more open and brave to sharing who you are, where you come from, and where you're going, because I think it's really going to connect you deeper with other people and also inspire you and inspire other folks as well. So thank you so much for tuning into the show today. If you got a lot of value out of this, make sure to share it out with the people that you care about. Tag me, tag Koya. Please let her know what you thought about this episode. And we've got some powerhouse, epic stuff coming your way very soon. New show topics, epic guests that are just going to knock your socks right off your feet. All right, so make sure to be ready for that. All right, take care. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk with you soon.